So we start with lung ultrasound in pediatrics, and right. So we all know the diagnostic applications of ultrasound, and here's a complete list of all the ultrasounds we do, where we have airway ultrasound, we have a vascular ultrasound, and we have CVC guided ultrasound insertion, we have abdominal ultrasound, and the last and the most important, basically, what we are going to talk about is the lung ultrasound here. Coming to the question which everybody asked me, and especially I think the fellows here will understand that why should we do the lung ultrasound? Is chest X-ray not enough for all of us? And here is the answer. So suppose I have given a fluid bolus to a child, right? What I can need to do is just see the lung of the child before I give the fluid bolus, and once I have given the bolus, I want to know, see the impact of the fluid bolus on the child. And that's what I can do. The real time monitoring of the patient. Suppose I have put in a chest drain. So I saw some pleural effusion. I put in a chest drain. Immediately after your chest drain, you can just do an ultrasound there and then to find out whether you made a difference to the child. So it's readily available, portable, especially for us who have this machine in our ICUs. It allows the real-time monitoring of the patients. Of course, it helps you to monitor your treatment response. Suppose you deal with a pneumothorax, you put in a needle there and then, and you look at the lung ultrasound and you find out whether what was the response to your treatment. Of course, in pediatric ICU, neonatal ICUs, some people do daily chest X-rays, or we get lots of exposure to radiation to our neonates and children. So yes, ultrasound, it reduces your radiation exposure. It is quite comfortable, affordable, and learning ultrasound requires a brief training. So it's not a very big deal. It has been seen even 2 to 6 hours of training is enough for somebody to pick up basic things on the lung ultrasound, and it is more sensitive, and then chest X-ray is more specific. Now, what does this mean? That certain pleural effusions, which is very, very small, you can see that the lung ultrasound is very, very specific, and it has got a very high sensitivity to pick up very small effusions or the lung ultrasound which are not picked up by the chest X-ray. Of course, consolidation, just look at the sensitivity and specificity, quite a good sensitivity and specificity. Pneumothorax, it's almost 100% specific. There are certain pneumothoraces, very small pneumothoraces you might miss on the X-ray, but yes, you can pick them up on the ultrasounds. So let's go through the list one by one. But before that, which is the common question, is what machine to use. So we have a Sonocyte machine in our ICUs, which is very portable, and then we take it around the neonatal and the pediatric ICUs and do our ultrasounds there. And of course, this machine is available with most of the hospitals with the radiologists. You can actually pick up that machine, or you can take your child there and get this basic scans done. And of course, I guess once you start doing this, you go to your radiology department, you start doing the scans, and later on you can buy this machine, which is the Sonocyte machine, for your ICUs. And this is how we all started doing this, and now we are doing we are basically have a Sonocyte machine with us. So what probe to choose? Now you see these three kind of probes. Now this probe is a phased array probe, which is usually not available with us. This is the cardiac probe, which we all of us have, and this is the linear probe. Now what is the point of the linear probe? It has got a high frequency. That means if your lung is here, so it is able to see the superficial structures very nicely. So it's got a high frequency probe. Until unless the child is very big, I mean the child is huge, then it's a problem. Otherwise, it's a good probe. So you're using this linear probe, which is available in all the machines. Coming to what areas to scan. So now you know the machine, and you know the probe, that is the linear probe. You have to keep the probe on 12 region method of a lung. So what you need to do is you basically have to divide the chest into three parts, which is your anterior, this is your middle, and your posterior part. This is the axillary part. And you draw an imaginary line between the nipple. So you have two areas in front, that is the anterior chest. We have two areas in the axillary line, that is mid axillary to the diaphragm, and posterior chest we have mid clavicular line to the diaphragm. So you have 12 zones. But in pediatric ICUs or maybe neonatal ICU, it is sometimes very difficult to examine all the zones. So what you need to do is divide your chest into two on the level of the nipple. So anterior part, you can have two zones, and axillary part, two zones, and posteriorly just turn the patient around and just examine one area of the lung. Now, why do we need to examine all the areas of the lung? Because if you don't examine all the areas of the lung, you're going to miss certain serious and important findings which might not be available just in the anterior part or the axillary part. So this is called the 10 region method, which is most preferred method in our ICUs, because sometimes they have all the tubes and everything, so it's very difficult to turn them around. Now, so if you see, this is my linear probe and this is my sonocyte machine, and what I have done in the anterior chest, I've just kept the probe on the chest, right? And this is my midline from the mid-axillary, mid-clavicular line to the costophrenic angle. So you are going downwards. So you start from here, you tilt your probe downwards, or you just, when you keep the probe here, what do you see? So this is basically your skin and soft tissue. This is your muscular part, and then comes your ribs. So if you see the ultrasound of this, what you see is this hypoechoic structure, which is black, that is the rib. And below is your lung parenchyma. All this is your lung parenchyma. So what you can see in the lung parenchyma is that the rib reflects the sound waves back. So rib is mostly, it is black, but the lung parenchyma, it scatters the radiation, so it looks a bit white. So this is how you see your lung in a lung ultrasound. So this is your skin, this is your subcutaneous tissue, your muscles, your rib, and this is basically your lung parenchyma. So the first thing you start seeing here, just see, you've kept the probe and you start seeing this is the rib, and this shimmering line which is moving, crawling like an ant here, that is your pleural line. So you can see the dot dots here, basically ant-like appearance, and you can see the crawling of the pleural line. Now this is what is called the pleural line or the lung sliding sign. Now this is the normal finding. When you're having a respiration, this pleural line or the parietal and the visceral pleura slide on each other, and that creates what is called the lung sliding sign. So if you see this shimmering line and crawling like an ant, this is the normal lung finding. That means your lung is normal. Next thing, you do a M mode. That means you have a knob on the lung ultrasound where you just put the probe here and you do an M mode. So what you start seeing here is basically this is the sea and this is the shore. So this is your seashore sign. Now seashore sign, you can see this is the beach. So what happens is when you have a normal lung, so the whole pleura is reflected, you basically see what is called a seashore sign. This is because your lung scatters the radiation and it appears like a beach. Now coming to the next, when you have the patch sign. So once I've kept the probe, you can see these are the two ribs, and in between, this is the pleural line. So this is also called a bat sign, which appears like a bat. Now you can see that it appears like a bat. So all this is the normal findings in the lung, or basically understanding the lung. That is the bat sign. These are the ribs. This is the lung parenchyma, and this is your pleural line. So this is called the bat sign. Coming to next, the study of the artifacts of the lung. Now, what are the artifacts of the lung? Simple. It's A line and the B line. Now see, just understand, when you keep the probe, you send an ultrasound wave, and the ultrasound wave is reflected back by the air in the lung, which is a normal finding, or air can be present in case of pneumothorax. So it completely reflected back, and what you can see is a a reverberated artifact, which is looks there's the same as the pleural line. So you see a pleural line, which is the shimmering line, and you see a line which is parallel to that line, just equidistant apart, and that is called the A line. That means under your lung or under your pleura, you have air. Air can be normal finding or it can be present in case of pneumothorax. So A lines are present in a normal lung or in case of a pneumothorax. Now coming to this, when you keep a probe and you have
आपका पूरा हाथ गंदा हो गया.
you have fluid and air under your lung. So what you need to see is, you see that your this is reflected back, right? And this is scattered. Your lung ultrasound rays are scattered. So what you start seeing is a line, which is a B line. So whenever you have fluid under the lung and rays are reflected back, you get something which is called the B line. So B line means fluid under the lungs. A line means air under the lungs, which is the normal finding, or it can be under the pneumothorax. Now look at this scan. So you put a probe, the air is reflected back completely, and you see a reverberated artifact, which is the A line, and this is there in normal lung or the pneumothorax. So this is your pleural line. This is your reverberated artifact, which is equidistant from your pleural line, that is your A lines. Coming to A lines, so reverberation artifact of the pleural line, it's a normal finding. They represent air below the pleura. So this is your pleura and this is the air below the pleura, and these two lines are basically the horizontal lines, constant distances apart, and this can be finding in case of pneumothorax also. So how will you differentiate? In the pneumothorax, your pleural line sliding sign will be absent. That means you will not see a shimmering A line which is moving, crawling like a A line. So that movement of the pleura will not be there. And if with absent lung sign, sliding sign, you see A lines, that means it's a pneumothorax. Coming to the B lines, as you can see, I have water under the lungs here. So what is it I'm going to have is these sun ray beam like appearance. So these are like the sun rays. They are starting from the pleural line. They are rocketing down to the bottom of your screen. So these are all your B lines and they represent interstitial edema. So based on these artifacts, so this is arising from the pleural line, laser beam like appearance or the sun ray like appearance. As you can see, they start from the pleural line, then they reach the bottom of the screen. Most important, the B lines will erase the A lines, right? So when you have fluid in the lung, you will not see A lines. Once isolated or two isolated B lines are normal. So if you do my lung ultrasound and I have a normal lung, you might see one or two B lines in an intercostal space. But if there are more than 3 lines in a single intercostal space, that's pathological. And that indicates that there is interstitial edema. If you have generalized B lines, there are lots of B lines. That is in case of ARDS or lung edema. In case you have localized B lines, that can happen in pneumonia and lung contusion. As you can see, this is all interstitial edema. So now look at this video here. So you have 3 intercostal spaces here, 1, 2, 3. And in 3 intercostal spaces, you see confluent B lines. You see lots of B lines. So more than 2 to 3 intercostal spaces where you have confluent B lines, that is termed as alveolar interstitial syndrome. So we'll go one by one from these artifacts. How do you read them? How do they represent what? So basically, alveolar interstitial syndrome is more than 2 intercostal spaces. Don't confuse B lines with the Z lines. Z lines, they start from the pleural line, but they are short, ill-defined. They will not come to the bottom of the screen. And they're usually 2 to 4 centimeters in length, and they do not erase the A lines. So these are the normal findings. The Z lines are the normal findings. They do not represent B lines, which is present in case of edema. Now coming to lung ultrasound findings in case of pneumonia in children. So we all use chest x-rays to diagnose pneumonia in children, but sometimes it is very difficult. The chest x-ray looks quite normal. your CRP is high, child is having fever, your child is having high counts. Yes, you can keep your probe on the chest of the child and you can see something like the pneumonia in terms of shred sign. Now, what are the findings in case of pneumonia in children? Now you see this image. What is happening here? There is no specific pleural line. It is broken. Then you start seeing there are some subpleural consolidations. Now these are the subpleural consolidations. Look at this area. Now this area looks like liver. It is heterogeneous liver-like structure. So that means your lung is consolidated here. And then you come to these small snowflake-like drops, and these are what are called the shred sign. Now at the junction of the air and the consolidated lung, you will find what is called the shred sign. And in the shred sign, you will see dynamic air bronchograms. So when you have air in the bronchi, in these bronchioles, in this area, what is going to happen is that's going to move. So you will have something called the dynamic air bronchogram. I'll show you in the next video. And you can see some B lines. This is because of the inflammatory edema. And you can see this blackish structure. This is all hypoechoic fluid, which is the pleural effusion. And you can see that the sensitivity and specificity of picking up even small pneumonias in case of children in lung ultrasound is quite high. That is 96% and 93%. Now, dynamic air bronchograms, they're very, very important because they are the ones they're going to differentiate pneumonia from atelectasis. Now, you can have a collapsed lung. So, but in a collapsed lung, you will not find air in the bronchi moving. So, dynamic air bronchograms are not available there. Now, look at this child. This is a 10-month-old child, came with septic shock and respiratory distress. As you can see the chest x-ray, that there is some haziness here in the right upper and the middle lobe. And the chest x-ray, of course, was suggestive of pneumonia. Now look at the lung ultrasound of this child. So what do you see? So number one, the pleural line is irregular. There are some subpleural consolidations here. Then you can see that this area has got a snowflake-like appearance, which is the shred sign. And here you can see there is small amount of fluid in the space. So this is what is called the shred sign. And if you can see this again, there are some dynamic air bronchograms. You can see that the air is moving in these air bronchograms. So this is the characteristic of a pneumonia, which is the shred sign. So just a colored representation of this. These small dots are the dynamic air bronchograms, which you will see moving with the respiration. This is the small amount of fluid that was seen. This was the hepatized lung, or this is the shred sign. And this is basically represents pneumonia in children. Now coming to this x-ray. Now this is a 7-year-old child with case of fever, cough and cold and fast breathing for 3 days. Yes, this x-ray was done a bit later, but once I kept the probe in this child, I saw something like this. So what you see here is a tissue-like. What you see here is a tissue-like sign. That is your basically your lung. This is your hepatized lung or a liver-like. Now you can see you can't differentiate between the lung and the liver here. This is the liver and this is the lung. You can't differentiate between lung and the liver. That means you're dealing with pneumonia, and this all is diffusion. Coming to the mode. Can you sorry. Okay, so when you do now in this, what I saw is that I showed you is that the two signs you see basically are the basically one you see a tissue-like sign, the other one was shred sign, which is representative of pneumonia. And if you see the M mode of this patient, like this pneumonia, you do a M mode of this, what you see a lung pulse sign. Just appreciate this. So it's pulsating. The pleura is pulsating with the cardiac pulsations. So this is basically what is happening in consolidation or pneumonia. Coming to the next thing, which is common in pneumonia, or it can happen in any tubercular effusions, or you can have empyemas. So that is the pleural effusion. Now see this basically ultrasound. Now what do you see? So this is the liver, right? And this is the part of the lung which is floating in some water. Now this is basically your pleural effusion. This hypoechoic structure, I'll show again, is basically your pleural effusion, right? So you can also do put an M mode and it looks like a sinusoid sign, but it's quite visible, and this is also called the floating lung sign here. So you can see the lung floating in a fluid, which is your pleural effusion. So pleural effusion, you can see, just have a look at this ultrasound. So as we have read, there is irregular pleural line. There are some subpleural consolidations. There is shred sign here. And you can see there is a small effusion here. And this is liver. So that is a hypoechoic or anechoic fluid, which is seen as a pleural effusion. It can be associated with pneumonia or atelectated lung. It can have a lung floating sign or a lung flapping sign, as I showed in the previous video. And you can also monitor. The beauty of the ultrasound is you always go to a sonologist, that radiologist, that please quantify the amount of fluid in the lung. Is it, should I drain this fluid or should I not drain this fluid? Also, lung ultrasound can basically detect very small effusions up to 5 ml. So this is quite useful. You can monitor. So pick up your ultrasound, you've got a small effusion, monitor the ultrasound, you do the lung ultrasound daily and find out whether the fluid in the lung is increasing or not. Are you going to drain that fluid or not? And the formula, although this is for the adults, it is equal to volume is equal to distance between the base of the lung and the pleura in mm into 20. So, but by experience, you will feel that this amount of fluid you're not going to tap. But yes, you can give some diuretics once the patient is stable. But if there's large effusions, you need to tap. Now, just have a look at this. What you can see here, there's some fibrinous strands. So this is fluid, definitely. This is your lung and this is your pleura. This is your lung and this is your liver. You can see there are fibrinous strands here. So these fibrinous strands, they are basically suggesting of empyema. So even if you take your child to a radiologist, just look at the scan. If you find such a fibrinous strands and you find some echogenic structures, these are the empyema. So what you need to do in empyema, you have to drain this pus, right? And let's see this child. So this is an 11-year-old child with pulmonary cox and has got a right pleural effusion. Now look at this. This is a quite hypoechoic, black, beautiful fluid that is there. And what you do is you put in a drain and drain this fluid. Now let's look at this 7-year-old girl with having fever for 2 days. She came to me with left-sided chest pain, and once I did the ultrasound of this child, I saw that there are lots of fibrinous strands here, right? This is a fusion and there's lots of fibrinous strands here. I did the x-ray, it looked like a fusion. I didn't know whether it was empyema or it was an effusion. But once I did the lung ultrasound, it was quite clear that this is empyema. And this girl came out to be Pseudomonas positive empyema later on. So we gave antibiotics, we put in a chest drain, and the child was fine thereafter after some time. So coming to the most common medical emergency which we face in both neonatal and pediatric ICUs. Now, if you look at this lung, let's appreciate this lung sliding sign. So you can see this ant-like structure crawling, and you can see that this is the normal lung or the lung sliding sign which is present in a normal lung. Now let's have a look here. So you can appreciate here that the pleura is just not moving. There is no shimmering and crawling like appearance. So what is this? Yes, here you're dealing with a pneumothorax. That means there is no lung sliding sign. And see, you have got A lines here. Just have a look. So this is a pleural line. This is one of the A lines, and they're equidistant with an absent lung sliding sign. So yes, this is, you are dealing with a pneumothorax. If you look at this video, so here you have A lines, but you have a normal lung sliding sign. So this is normal lung, and this is your pneumothorax. Now, when you do a M mode, so where you put an M mode of this patient, and what you start seeing, this is the normal lung, and that's what I said, this is the seashore sign. That means this is the sea and this is the beach. So this is the seashore sign, which is normally present in a case of lung ultrasound in normal. So when you have a lung ultrasound, you can see a stratosphere sign, barcode sign. Just try putting a probe and just put air, just shake it in the air, and you will find this stratosphere sign. This represents that you've got a pneumothorax. Now let's look at the most pathognomic feature of a pneumothorax, which is the lung point. Now, sudden appearance of now you see the CT chest. There's a small pneumothorax. This is a patient with a small pneumothorax here. Now let's look at this. So just appreciate that here you have a sliding sign, and this lung is not moving at all. So just let me put the video again. So this part of the lung is sliding. You have seen a sliding sign, but this pleura is not moving at all. So what you need to do, this is called the lung point. That means in small pneumothoraces, you have to scan the entire lung to find out this point, which is the lung point. It is 100% pathognomic of a pneumothorax. So you keep your probe in the anterior chest, and then you go down and back into the middle and then posterior, and keep finding this area. If you have a complete absent lung sliding sign, like I showed in the last video, you are dealing with a large pneumothorax. But in case you have small pneumothoraces, you have to look for a lung point, and there is where you pick up pneumothoraces much before your chest X-ray and the CTs. So this is the most pathognomic, and if you do a M mode of this lung point, you can see that there is a seashore sign, which is the normal lung here, and the stratosphere or the barcode sign, which is the pneumothorax lung. So signs of pneumothorax: positive lung, positive lung sliding sign and presence of B lines, they rule out pneumothorax. If you can see a lung sliding sign and B lines, there's no pneumothorax, and it's got a positive predictive value of about 100%. And in case of absence of lung sliding sign with presence of A lines and absence of B lines and presence of lung point, this is the most pathognomic of a pneumothorax. Okay, so lung ultrasound versus chest X-ray. So there are many studies which have seen that lung ultrasound can pick up very small subcentimetric consolidations. So if you have a pleural line and you can see small consolidations, these things can pick up pneumonia much before than a chest X-ray. So it can also pick up very small effusions, which you can miss on the chest X-ray. It's got a very high sensitivity and a very good specificity to find out pneumonia in children. And of course, performance of the lung ultrasound, it has been seen that it is quite similar to CT scan. So you're not missing on many things once you know that you're dealing with things. So yes, it is quite useful in case of pneumonia. Now, am I able to differentiate bacterial pneumonia with the viral pneumonias of bronchiolitis? So one thing which studies, or we have also seen in our clinical practice, is that if you've got a bronchiolitis or a viral pneumonia, you cannot differentiate between bronchiolitis and viral pneumonia. But what findings you will see in case of a bronchiolitis or a viral pneumonia is small subpleural consolidations. Now let's look at this ultrasound. You can see that there are small subpleural consolidations here, small subcentimetric consolidations. There is no hepatization of the lung. There is no shred sign. There is no consolidated lung here. And you can see a few B lines here, right? And this alone signifies that you're dealing with a case of bronchiolitis or a viral pneumonia. You can have irregular changes or thickened pleural line here with some subpleural consolidations, but they will be less than a centimeter. So that's what is found in bronchiolitis and viral pneumonias. Coming to the most common, which is the alveolar interstitial syndrome, as I said, in the 2 or 3 intercostal spaces, you have confluent B lines. That means you can't count the B lines. In a scanning area, you're dealing with alveolar interstitial syndrome. Now, in case of pulmonary edema, you can see this in case of ARDS and interstitial pneumonias and pulmonary fibrosis. So, how do you differentiate cardiogenic pulmonary edema with ARDS? Now, you can see that here you have confluent B lines, but they are symmetrically spread all over the lung area. So you're dealing with a cardiogenic pulmonary edema. But in ARDS, it's a heterogeneous disease. So you have spared areas and you have normal areas. So what you can see is that you have confluent B lines here, but there are certain spared areas here. And along with that, you have thickened and irregular pleural line, and you can see small subpleural consolidations here. And this is typical of ARDS. Let's take it with an example. Now, this is the case of, So this is a case of, you can say, a swine flu with ARDS. Now, you can see on the chest X-ray, you've got bilateral infiltrates, right? Now, let's look at the scan of this patient. So this area you have confluent B lines, and this area you have certain, spared area. This is one of the intercostal space which is relatively spared. But in case you have pulmonary edema, which looks like almost the same, but you have confluent B lines all over the spaces. So this is the congestive heart failure, or you can say acute glomerulonephritis with a pulmonary edema. And this was a case of ARDS where you can see sparing on the lung areas. So COVID-19, so we've been doing ultrasounds in COVID-19 as well. So in COVID-19, you have seen that the features of a chest X-ray are that you've got the peripheral opacities, right? You have the basal lung opacities. That's what is a pathognomic of a COVID-19 pneumonia. And of course, in the later stages, the whole lung gets involved. So you can see that there are consolidations which are abutting the pleura here. In case of lung ultrasound, you will see the same findings in case of ARDS. That is the thickened or irregular pleural line, lots of confluent B lines, subpleural consolidations, and then subpleural consolidations and then air bronchograms. So that is in case of COVID-19. I would not go into PEEP titration, but yes, when you apply PEEP on a patient whose lung looks like this is the case of ARDS. If you start getting A lines or you start getting a symmetrical B lines, I think this is the lung recruitment. We are all studying this further and validating this, but this is the application of PEEP. When you sit at the bedside, you see a lung ultrasound where you see a low ARDS lung, you apply PEEP and you get this like B line or A line like pattern. That means your lung is recruited now. Coming to the de-recruitment, of course, when you have a patient like this and you see that my lung is worsening like this, then you can see that there is de-recruitment here. So semi-quantitative lung ultrasound scores. Now, because we know what are A lines, B lines, let's look at this lung ultrasound. So you can see A lines here, right? So next lung ultrasound, you see lots of B lines. And then you start seeing the confluent B lines. And then you can start seeing that the thickening of the pleura is there. And the last one, you can see the shred sign or lots of atelectasis, confluent B lines. The pleural line is totally irregular. Now, what do you think here? This is the normal lung. Here my lung is worsening. Probably I'm getting fluid in the lung. Here I'm having lots of B lines or confluent B lines. I might have to start some non-invasive support, maybe probably HFNC, or maybe you can say NIV on this patient, and probably this lung needs ventilation. So even by doing lung ultrasound scores, you can see that the extravascular lung water, that you can quantify the volume in the lungs, the water in the lungs, surfactant administration will I'll tell later, and early diagnosis of FAP, and respiratory support in bronchiolitis. So of course, this patient would require more support as compared to this patient. So you can score the lung this way. Now this is a case of ARDS, and just have a look that I've done the scoring of this patient. So this was his lung initially, and you can see that the lots of areas of the lung are involved. And the next scan I did on the next day here when I did PRVC with the PEEP of 12. So you can see here that there is confluent B lines and the subpleural consolidations are increasing here. So there's quite, confluent B lines and the consolidations are down. So let's look at this lung here. This was the time I needed to shift this patient on a high frequency oscillatory ventilator. You cannot count the B lines. It's a complete mess. And you can see that the subpleural consolidations, they've gone, they're thick subpleural consolidations, and irregular line, pleural line is completely irregular. This was the patient who went on to HFOB. So this was the lung ultrasound scoring I did on this child. And you can see with this ultrasound, I knew I have to give more support to this child. So this was the lung ultrasound scoring we did. Basically, this was the case of patient with PIMS TS, and you can see there is fluid in the lung. You gave diuretics, and slowly, the V lines reduced, and this patient was off the oxygen and the respiratory support. So you can monitor your response to treatment by using serial lung ultrasounds, which is really not possible with the chest X-ray. So you have to keep doing the lung ultrasounds daily in your ICU, and you can see and quantify the lung or the fluid in the lung daily. So coming to a bit of neonatology, and this was the paper published where we saw that where all they have classified and they have given descriptive and functional applications of lung ultrasound in neonatology. So I will just go through these links one by one. So coming to a 37-week-old neonate who was born by cesarean section and admitted with respiratory distress since 4 hours. So you do a chest X-ray and it looks like this. Yes, you know that this is a case of RDS, but how does the lung ultrasound look in such a patient? So you can see that there is an irregular pleural line. So these are the lots of intercostal, and you can see some subpleural consolidations here and lots of B lines. So this is the RDS pattern, or this is called the respiratory distress syndrome pattern. Let's have a look at the video here. So irregular pleural line, and there's lots of subpleural small consolidations, lots of B lines, and there are no A lines here. So this is a case of RDS. Now let's differentiate it with the TTN case. So this was a 32 plus 4 weeks preterm baby born by cesarean section with respiratory distress at 6 hours. What you need to see in this lung is the double lung point. So you need to scan the entire area and look for a double lung point. Now look at this point where we have a RDS-like pattern. That means your thickened pleura, your subpleural consolidations, and lots of B lines, right? And this is the normal area. So yes, in case of transient tachypnea of newborn, you find certain normal areas because the fluid is not entirely present in the entire lungs. So yes, you can see this double lung point. There'll be no pleural effusion here, and you will have no consolidations here. So you are dealing with basically here with transient tachypnea of newborn. And see this light, you can easily differentiate between RDS and TTN. So you have subpleural consolidations, you have thickened pleura, lots of confluent V lines, but here you have, yes, pleura, but mostly B lines, not much of subpleural consolidations, and you can see a normal lung here. This is the transient tachypnea of the newborn, or you can see a double lung point here. So lung ultrasound can differentiate between RDS and TTN. Coming to the double lung point, which is the pathognomic in case of TTN, and the pleural effusion, A-line abnormalities or pleural line abnormalities, they can be present in both, but double lung point is the pathognomic. Pneumonia, we all know, I've just explained previously that you get Schred sign, you get air bronchograms, and you've got a thickened and irregular pleural line with some B lines. These are the pathognomic of pneumonia. Of course, in case of neonates, always combine this with the patient's white cell count or C-reactive protein or the procalcitonin to have a better view or better understanding of the child. So we always deal with in neonatology, does the patient have sepsis or doesn't have sepsis, especially when the patient is on CPAP support, a term newborn baby. Just pick up your probe and find out whether the patient has RDS or the patient has pneumonia by just looking at the Schred sign. Meconium aspiration syndrome, it's not a very good, ultrasound is not a very good tool to differentiate between pneumonia and meconium aspiration syndrome, because the findings are almost similar as in case of pneumonia. Lung ultrasound, we probably would be doing the therapy also that as a guide to surfactant therapy. Now this is before surfactant, you can see there are lots of confluent B lines, but after giving the surfactant, my A lines have started appearing. That means there's a response to my surfactant and I do not need further surfactant or further support. Yes, you can monitor and decide the respiratory support with newborns in case of RDS. Yes, here it looks like the patient needs surfactant. If your lung is that bad, that means you can have so if it's that bad, you can see that you need more surfactant or probably ventilation as well. So you can monitor the respiratory support in newborns with RDS using your serial lung ultrasounds. This is a safe protocol and I'm going to end here just in case of an emergency, in case of newborn. What you need to do is that a patient collapses in case of in a neonate, just pick up your probe, just do a cardiac echogram, and if you see that there's a tamponade, just a needle aspirate, or if you see a lung, look for lung sliding sign. If the lung sliding sign is there, that means you may be dealing with effusion. If you have no lung sliding sign and you have only A lines, no B lines, just look for the lung point and you know that you're dealing with a pneumothorax. So pneumomediastinum, tamponades and pneumothoraces, which are cardiac, which are emergencies, you can easily pick up using a lung ultrasound, and this is the safe protocol which is devised in Italy and they have been using in case of neonatal emergencies. Thank you, everyone. And this is the further scope in lung ultrasound in pediatrics, where we do lots of airway ultrasounds, diaphragm ultrasounds, and there's a lot of scope of work to be done in ultrasound to validate it completely in pediatrics. But yes, this has become a very significant tool right now in our ICUs and gives lots of information, which is quite significant. These are the workshops we conduct. Unfortunately, this time I had to do this online, especially for our fellows. But yes, once we are out of this pandemic, probably we will do a hands-on workshop on this lung ultrasound. So open for questions. Anybody? I know the workshop is really important hands-on, but yes, probably tomorrow, someday or the other, we would be doing that.
Hello, Dr. Mehak.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you so much for this excellent talk. Very clear, very lucid concepts, and very well presented. The slides were very clear, and I understand like there's a limitation because of the COVID that we cannot have hands-on training, but I think this is the closest that we could come to. And thank you so much. And let's see if there are some questions now.